So I was asked to give a talk on archetypal energies in psychedelic experience by the local psychedelic society here in New Orleans. And so I thought I'd create a YouTube version of the talk that's a bit kind of more streamlined. So this talk is going to be about what are archetypes, why do we have them, and how do these archetypes and these archetypal energies show up in psychedelic experience, and what do we do with them when they show up. So, starting at the basics, archetypes are a concept that was developed by psychologist Carl Jung. Carl Jung believed that we all have a collective unconscious that is below every individual unconscious. And this collective unconscious is kind of like the repository, not of genetic DNA that's in our cells, but rather mimetic DNA. Rather, it's the place where the ideas of the world, of humanity, come from, and kind of it's the library sort of where they reside. And he based this idea on the fact that if you look across the world, you see recurring figures and symbols showing up in the religious traditions, the folk tales, the mythology, all over the world. And these figures are the hero and the villain, the mother and father, the king and queen. You see different kinds of gods and deities, like ocean gods, like Neptune, forest creatures and spirits, god of death, like Hades or Yama. And all of these symbols, all of these kind of characters, they seem to repeat in different ways, in different forms, with different names. And Carl Jung, as well as other mythologists, were kind of scratching their heads, like, why would these figures, why would these societal roles keep on showing up? And Carl Jung said it's because we have something called archetypes. And an archetype is really kind of a primal type that he believed is, whether it's in our mind or is just passed on and communicated through our books and the way that our society is structured, we come into the world and we look around and we see these archetypal roles in society, these archetypal symbols, and we're like, oh wow, there's something really powerful about this. And what he did is he started to also notice that this would show up in dreams, in people's artwork, and entirely spontaneously. They weren't intentionally doing this, but these symbols would unconsciously show up in how people talked, the songs that they would create, the stories they would tell. And he believed that these were important because they communicated something about the deep psyche, the deep inner world of human beings, both individually and collectively. So, why do we have these? This is kind of another important question. We can see these patterns, we can see these things repeating across society. Yes, mothers and fathers show up in society throughout the world, heroes and villains show up, all over the place. But why do we have them? The answer that I find most convincing is that we have these archetypes because they're crucial to human survival. And I mean that in a deep way, not a shallow kind of form of survival where whatever's most advantageous, survival of the fittest, and everybody else can go to hell. No, this is survival on a deep and wise level. Let me explain. When we are encountering an archetypal figure, let's say an example that I like to use is the buffalo for Native American communities. For certain Native American communities and cultures, particularly the societies of the plain, the buffalo was a hugely important animal. And they had masks, and they had songs and dances and rituals around the buffalo. And the buffalo is, just like any animal, is it has an archetype related to it. It will show up in dreams. It is an important, religious and spiritual symbol for these communities. And because of the importance of this animal and this species to this particular culture, the archetypal relationship to the buffalo was really strong. It was really strong, and it created a kind of respect for the species, a respect for this life form. And this allowed for a much more harmonious interrelationship between these cultures, these societies, and this animal and this species. And it led to, a very different relationship than the one that colonial, U.S. colonial powers, when they came in, had to the buffalo. They looked at it and they said, this is, a place for an animal for exploitation, for the meat, for the furs, all of that. And also, a more nefarious kind of strand to the way that colonial powers treated the buffalo was they recognized the meaning and importance of the buffalo to the native cultures. And they massacred them. They destroyed the species. They, to the brink, it was brought to the brink of extinction, because this new culture that came in didn't have this kind of sacred relationship, didn't have this interbeing with the buffalo. In fact, they did exactly the thing that would destroy and undermine the culture and interbeing of the native communities. And that, I think, is a really, really sad and potent example of the way in which an archetype actually helps us to live in sacred relationship and harmonious interbeing and interdependence with the world around us. If we encounter an archetype or an archetypal energy, and this is true in whether it's in psychedelic experience or in dreams or just in the world, it feels sacred. It's the sense of, oh my God, I am in the presence, in relationship, or in connection with something deep and powerful. And that's the kind of feeling that allows us to exist with other human beings and with other animals, with the water and the rivers, with the land, with the sky, in a way that is actually healthy and wise. And I think it's no accident that, traditions, different cultures from around the world have these different mythological, sacred, spiritual, religious connections to different aspects of the world around them, because this is a deep intelligence that has allowed human beings to grow and live in the world without exploiting it, without dominating it, without being in injurious, without injuring the world around them, and as a result, not injuring themselves. Because if we deteriorate the world around us, we also deteriorate our own ability to survive and live in it. Unfortunately, more recently, our connection with the archetypes, our connection with both our deep inner psyche and the world outside of us has been deteriorating. The sacredness of the past has been given way to a more profane relationship to the world. And this is Mircea Eliade talks about the sacred and the profane, these kinds of two different modes of engaging with the world. The way that I like to think about it is it's not that sacredness is over here and the profane is over here and there's a kind of vertical line between them. That's kind of the old, when you step into a church, you're in a sacred space now. Rather, I like to think of it as a horizontal line that divides the profane up here from the sacred down here. And when we're able to cross that line, or really it's kind of a gradient, we're able to go deeper into our felt experience, into our deep psyche, as Jung would like to call it. That's where we have access to this kind of deep inner experience. This is the deep sacred connection to the world around us, to our natural environment, to other human beings, and also to ourselves. The more that we have access to the sacred, the less that we are kind of living in the shallows of profane, and cheap relationships. The more our relationships are connected and informed by these sacred feelings, the more we're able to live with respect and live in a way that is wise and not exploitative or destructive to the world around us. So it's kind of a long-winded way of explaining, why these archetypes exist for us at all. They help us live in deep and wise and healthy interrelationship with the world around us and also within our own communities. Now, what happens when these archetypes appear to us? And particularly, what happens when they appear to us in psychedelic space? This is really fascinating. And, if you've ever worked with psychedelic medicines, you may have had this experience of the world suddenly starts to feel deeper, richer, more sacred. And it's when you start to feel that, you are entering into archetypal territory. The way I like to think about what psychedelics do is, instead of just looking outward at the world, we suddenly are looking inward at our subconscious, not just our individual subconscious, but it can also open up the collective unconscious. And this is where those sacred archetypal feelings emerge. We can actually have access and relationship to them. Now, how do we know when one of these archetypes shows up? I've done a lot of work with clients, doing parts work. And parts work, for those that are familiar with it, is a kind of psychological technique that allows us to talk with different parts of our psyche, our ego, our unconscious. But archetypes are something different than parts, because parts are particular to that individual person. They're particular to you and your history. Archetypes are ancient. They do not belong to you individually. They are a collective existence. And so when an archetype shows up in a dream, in kind of inner journey that you can take, psychedelic or not, there's a feeling of silence. There's a feeling of depth. There's a feeling like you're looking at an ancient artifact or a monument. For me, it kind of feels like I'm encountering the Sphinx or a pyramid or an obelisk. For whatever reason, the Egyptian symbolism is really potent for me in regard to the archetypes. They are ancient and they are mysterious. They don't talk very much, but they are felt. And I had this really, really interesting experience with a client where we were doing regular parts work, and then he found this kind of pillar, this rod, and it was wrapped up in these cloths and rope. And when he undid the rope and the cloth fell away, the rod was there, and it was potent, and it was powerful and strong. And he didn't say much. It was just there. And what we found out, just sinking into this relationship, was that this rod represented the archetype of truth. And he had covered it up when he was younger because he was afraid of it. It was too much. It was too powerful. And now he realized he had to return this archetype of truth, this rod, to the center of his life. He was able to use this rod as the central pillar for his inner kingdom. The place where he would make his decisions from would be from this place of truth. The place where the thing that would hold the base of his inner world was this pillar of truth. So when an archetypal entity shows up, the energy that you feel is going to be a sacred energy. And when it shows up, what you want to do is you want to ask it, or ask yourself, what is this archetype doing here? Why is it showing up right now? What is it trying to show or tell me? And then just listen. Listen to what you hear. Listen visually to what happens, what shows up visually in your inner in your mind's eye, in your inner world. Feel what this energy is like as it enters and moves through your body. The more that we are able to take this archetype into us, the more we're able to integrate it. And integration, what that really means, it just means to add up, to add and incorporate into the whole of our being. So an archetype is being added and integrated into who we are. And you can feel this happening on a cellular level. It really feels like it's going into the body, into the muscles, into the nervous system. And it really feels good. It feels like there's a missing piece that is just being put right into place, and it fits exactly right. You know that feeling in a puzzle? It fits exactly where it's supposed to be. And this archetypal energy can then help inform us and help show up in our lives more fully. Whether it's the archetype of the warrior and the kind of strength that provides, the archetype of the king or queen, a strong leader, the ways that these show up in our dreams, the way that they show up in our deep inner explorations. When we take them in and integrate them into the whole, they have some gifts that they can offer us, gifts that help us to encounter the challenges of our life and to meet them wisely, and to meet them in a way that is respectful, that is sacred, that fills us up with meaning and purpose, and leaves us feeling more whole and complete, both individually and also in what we can offer to our community, to the world around us. So, if this is something that resonates with you, I hope that you've gotten something from this talk. And if you're looking for more like this, you can find more videos on my channel. You can also go to my website and learn more about the kind of work that I do. Right now I'm launching something called the Sacred Academy for people that are interested in learning more about this kind of work, psychological, spiritual wisdom for the modern world. And this combines individual work with me, along with a group of like-minded people, like-minded, other seekers, as well as bringing in different teachers, philosophers, psychologists that can speak on these deeper layers of human experience. So if this is something that interests you, go down to the description, go to the website, and find more about it. Hope to see you in the next video, and leave a comment and subscribe. I'll see you next time.